Stinger hive detected.
Agents, everybody's favorite global event in the Division 2, the Golden Bullet, has just finished, and I'm sure you all have a boatload of system corruption pieces from your legacy season caches. It's time to put those pieces to good use. Nope, scratch that, great use. In this video, I've got the most accessible system corruption PvP build yet.
Well, you must be very proud of yourself.
Don't have many exotics? No problem. This build doesn't need any. Got potato aim? No problem. You can shoot bodies all day. Do you struggle with positioning in PvP? No problem. This build is strong both up close and at range. No more jumping through hoops to get your damage. No building stacks, no range limitations. This build is the most well-rounded system corruption build on the market. It's the Corrupted Pulse, or Pulse System.
Stop it!
Anyways, the name doesn't matter. It's Spotter Flatline thrown onto a system corruption build, and I absolutely love it. Until now, my system corruption builds have basically forced the user to play in close quarters. But I get it, that's not everybody's playstyle. So while this build is still gonna win fights up close, it's also a menace to your enemies at range. Sounds basically invincible, right? Well, not exactly, but we'll get to its counters a little later. For now, let's look at what pieces you need for the build. For starters, you need 4 pieces of system corruption, including the backpack. Because the stats from your SHD watch are disabled in conflict, it's hard to reach the 60% crit chance cap with gear sets. So it's helpful if you have crit chance rolled onto at least 3 pieces of system corruption. You'll still be able to hit the 60% crit chance cap, but you'll need 12% crit chance from your other 2 gear pieces, 12% from your gear mods, 8% from the Seska bonus, and 10% from weapon mods. Ideally, you'll have crit damage rolled on everything else. Alright, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with system corruption,
Nice to meet you.
I'll give a quick rundown on the set. You always want to run 4 pieces, as you only get access to the Giga bonus when you have 4 pieces equipped. Same goes for any gear set. The System Corruption 2-piece bonus gives you 15% armor on kill. 3 pieces gives you 40% disrupt resistance and 40% pulse resistance. And the 4-piece bonus, Hack Step Protocol, replaces your armor kits with an infinite use ability on a 20-second cooldown that gives you 50% bonus armor and hides your nameplate and armor bar for 5 seconds. Additionally, for every 5% bonus armor you have, you get 2% total weapon damage. This damage maxes out at 20%. So when you use Hackstep Protocol and gain the 50% bonus armor, you'll be dishing out 20% bonus damage. Looking at the backpack bonus, Multi-Threaded Execution, it boosts the bonus armor from Hackstep Protocol to 100%. So with 1.4 million armor on this build, you'll be boosting yourself to 2.8 million every time you use Hackstep. So here I just grazed the surface of how system corruption works. If you'd like to know more about this awesome set, make sure to check out my System Corruption 101 video. I'll leave a link in the description and comments. So how about the rest of the build? What makes this so different from my other system corruption builds? Well, let's start with our weapon. While there is a long list of assault rifles and rifles that you can choose from for this build, there are 2 conditions that your weapon of choice must meet. It must have a long rail, and it must not be an exotic. The reason being is we need to attach the linked laser pointer, which only works on long rails. There's no official list of all the weapons that are compatible with it, but it's very easy to check. Just activate the Technician Specialization and select the Underbarrel Weapon mod. If you're able to attach the linked laser pointer, you're good to go. So why is this mod so important for this build? What exactly does it do? Simply put, it pulses enemies that you aim down sights at. And we need it because a lot of our bonus damage will come from shooting targets that are pulsed. Speaking of which, the only weapon talent you want for this build is Flatline, which amplifies weapon damage by 15% to pulsed targets. Great news! Everybody and everything we shoot will be pulsed thanks to the laser pointer. And then our chest piece talent will be Spotter, which again amplifies weapon damage to pulsed enemies by 15%. Great news! Everybody and everything we shoot will be pulsed thanks to the laser pointer. So we're getting 30% amplified damage to every target we shoot. And all we have to do is aim down sights at them. Not bad, but it could be higher. We could use the named chest piece, the Closer, and the named AR, the Kingbreaker, for 40% amplified damage. Sounds like a no-brainer, right? Wrong. If you have the Closer with the right attributes, yes, this will definitely outperform any chest with regular Spotter. You're getting 5% total armor from the Uzina bonus, plus 5% amplified damage, and giving up either 13% crit damage, 8% crit chance, or 10% assault rifle damage. A very good trade-off. So we've got 4 pieces of system corruption, the Closer, and for the last piece, you've got a couple of choices. First off, you can go with a typical brand set piece, preferably Seska for the 8% crit chance, but Grupo or Fenris would also suffice. It can be either the mask, holster, knees, or gloves with crit chance and crit damage. Your other choice is the exotic Coyote's mask. The big upside for this piece is you don't need 60% crit chance on your build, because to targets between 15 to 25 meters, you get both 10% crit chance and 10% crit damage. The only drawback is that between 0 to 15 meters, you're getting 25% crit damage, but no chance. So to targets in close range, you'll have a higher crit damage, but slightly lower crit chance. In mid to long range, you'll have max crit chance, but slightly lower damage. How much crit chance you put on your build is up to you, but I'd recommend somewhere between 48 to 56%. If you prefer fighting up close, stick to the higher end. If you prefer to stay at range, closer to 48% would be better. Now I want to take a look at the Kingbreaker. I mentioned earlier that this AR has perfect flatline, giving 20% amplified damage instead of 15%. And while 5% amplified damage is significant, so is its recoil. Compared to my preferred long rail AR, the Police M4, the Kingbreaker has some insane recoil, and personally, I just can't manage it. And since I'm hitting significantly more shots with the M4, especially at range, the extra damage from perfect flatline just isn't worth it for me. But hey, maybe that's just me. It isn't. Maybe everybody who insists on using the Kingbreaker on any and every spotter build has incredible recoil control. They don't. That being said, I don't necessarily recommend everybody use the Police M4 with this build. Your best bet is to try a few weapons with long rails, and whichever you feel most comfortable with, the one you can hit the most shots with, go with that. And as I always recommend, go to the firing range or any blank wall and unload a few mags without compensating for the recoil, so you know exactly what the recoil patterns will feel like. Memorize this pattern to help you manage your recoil in-game. Now, if you're an AR guy like myself, I recommend checking out my video on the recoil patterns of all ARs in the Division 2. Just keep in mind that it's not going to include some of the new weapons introduced in the last couple years. Link again will be in the comments and description. Okay, so you may have already noticed that this build is a bit squishier than all of my other system corruption builds. And that's because this build is not just for fighting up close, but for dishing out damage at range as well. with 5 or 6 blues, you're going to be tickling enemies outside of 15 to 20 meters. So I've got 3 red cores and 3 blue cores on this build. That being said, if you prefer to be tankier or have more damage, 4 and 2 or 2 and 4 will work fine too. Just go with what feels best for you. As for the specialization, there's really no choice here. You have to run the technician specialization, as that's the only way to unlock the linked laser pointer. A few things to keep in mind with this specialization are that you gain 15% bonus armor while aiming a skill. That can include your hive, decoy, firefly, etc. This can be useful against debuffs like pestilence and vile, as well as status effects if you're not using a booster hive. But I highly recommend using the booster hive with every system corruption build, as you don't have medkits to save you from damage over time ticks. Back to technician, you also get a free skill tier, which isn't game breaking, but you'll get an extra second on your booster hive buff, as well as 33% efficiency instead of 20. Finally, against St. Elmo users, keep in mind that if you and your teammates are within 5 meters of your deployed hive, you are immune to shock. One final thing to remember is with Hackstep Protocol, you do not get the medkit bonus from your specialization. Not a problem with this build though, as the technician medkits suck donkey doo-doo. So I mentioned earlier that this build does have a counter, and that is pulse resistance. Anyone running 100% pulse resistance will not only be undetectable by pulses, but will not take the amplified damage from spotter and flatline. How does one get this pulse resistance? With either system corruption or 3 pieces of yaw. Both of these give 40% pulse resistance. Add that to the base 50% that everybody gets from the specialization tree, and then a 10% pulse resistance mod, and you get full immunity to pulses. Naturally, with this build, you're gonna wanna get that 10% pulse resistance mod so you can go full stealth mode, and in case you run into other spotter flatline or heartbreaker builds. Last but not least, I've got a final piece of advice for anyone who is new to system corruption. After seeing a handful of agents struggle with using Hackstep Protocol mid-fight, I've been reminded of how hard it is to get into the habit of using it in place of regular medkits. So I highly recommend to first, for anyone on controller, remap your medkit button to something that is more easily accessible than the D-pad. Then, practice using system corruption in PvE before jumping into PvP. It's honestly pretty bad in PvE, so maybe you'll want to set the difficulty to challenging, then play as you would in PvP just to get used to using Hackstep Protocol. Get into the habit of going from shooting to popping Hackstep Protocol during a quick strafe and then right back to shooting. Once you feel comfortable doing this quickly and efficiently, then it'll be time to bring your system corruption skills into PvP. And before I wrap this video up, the obligatory reminder that the best and really only way to farm system corruption is during global events like the Golden Bullet or Hollywood. Get as many stars as you can during the event and spend them all on Legacy Season caches. Not sure what the drop rate is for system corruption, but it's infinitely better than any other way of getting it. And finally, that's it. Yet another glorious system corruption build explained down to the very last detail, brought to you by the one and only System Corruption King. Hope you enjoyed this one, and until next video, have fun out there, agents.